Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo, and we're here today to talk about the Darkzone post-patch 1.02. This is essentially my review of the new and improved Darkzone, and I'm happy that I can actually say that, new and improved. All of the changes that were made in patch 1.02 have been a great step forward in improving the Darkzone experience. Initially, when I saw the patch notes, I was excited about most of the stuff and then concerned about some of the stuff, so I'm really happy that it's all just come together and improved the Darkzone experience. There are still some issues with the DZ, and we'll talk a little bit about that towards the end of this video, but let's start with the positives. Number one, before patch 1.02, there was really no direct incentive to go to the level 31 and level 32 areas of the DZ. If you went there, you were simply getting an increased combat challenge, which my squad was all about. But one of the things we noticed quickly after spending multiple days in the north of the Darkzone was that the enemies there, specifically the named enemies, which were requiring massive amounts of ammunition and teamwork to take down with all of their additional mobs, weren't dropping really any good loot. In fact, we weren't seeing barely any. I don't think we saw any high-end loot drop in the probably week that we spent in the north. And most of the superior gear that was dropping wasn't that good either. A lot of it wasn't even item level 31. So there wasn't really an incentive to be there, and a lot of the other players who have been playing the Division in the Darkzone recognize that. So what you had instead was everyone clustering up down at the south of the map in the level 30 zone, simply killing and farming those bosses over and over on easy mode. Because they knew they could kill more bosses more frequently, then they probably figured they had a better chance of getting high-end gear. That's obviously an issue. There needs to be a sense of progression. There's a reason that they leveled out the Darkzone. So what they've done is increase the high-end drop rate from named level 31 and level 32 enemies in the north of the DZ. That, of course, is a big positive, and I can say that just in the last 3 days, I've played with 2 different squads, depending on the day, essentially. Between those 2 squads, which is a total of 6 people, we've seen 10 high-end items drop in 3 days in the north of the Darkzone. So obviously they've done a good job in increasing that high-end drop rate, and it's been satisfying. You know, it's nice to go there and actually see items dropping. Obviously they weren't all weapons, but previously you were lucky to even get a red dot sight or a mod. Nothing was dropping from the enemies in the north. It was terrible. So I'm really happy to see that increased drop rate. Number one, I don't want to hang out in the south. I don't want to kill the easy enemies over and over for loot. I'm not about that. I want to have fun. I want to be challenged. That's the reason I play games like this. So I was going to hang out in the north regardless. It's nice to finally see my squad being rewarded for that. Not to mention, it's going to drag a lot of the players who are chilling in the bottom for no reason up into the 31 zone, up into the 32 zone. We're going to be spread out across the DZ. And you know what? The north of the Darkzone is the coolest looking part of the Darkzone. Some amazing, beautiful, dark, destroyed environmental design up there. If you haven't been to the north, get your butt up there, get yourself some high-end loot, and check out the awesome environmental design. Now, the other big change that came with patch 1.02 was a modification to the rogue system. They actually decreased the punishment for dying as a rogue, and they increased the rewards for killing rogues. Now, this is a very fine line. You guys have heard me talk about this before, that Ubisoft is walking. They have to make sure that whatever they do to the rogue system, there is never a direct incentive to go rogue. Because that would then risk turning the Darkzone into something that it's not. That would risk turning it into a Battle Royale style arena. This isn't the culling, this isn't Battle Royale, you know, this isn't the Hunger Games. It's a completely different experience, one that is equally driven by its PvP as it is by its PvE. Now, I know, admittedly, before 1.02, there was more PvE than PvP going on, and they definitely needed to make changes to balance that, and that has been done in 1.02. The punishment for dying as a rogue is far, far less than it was before 1.02, and I have noticed an instant increase in the number of agents going rogue. I don't want to say that they've increased the incentive for it, because I don't think that's what their main objective should ever be with rogue status. But what I think they've done is they've increased the number of players and the temptation to go rogue. That's what needs to be increased. And if there's a little bit less punishment, then the temptation is going to be higher to, say, poke the guy next to you who just killed that boss with you and find out what's inside of his contaminated satchel. And when I say poke, I mean kill, and then of course harvest the goods that he drops on the ground. Fingers crossed that even though you didn't get a high-end item off that boss, he got a high-end item off that boss. There has definitely been an increase in players taking that into consideration. And just in the last 3 days that I've played, I've seen a massive increase in the number of rogue squads roaming the DZ. And that is awesome because I love the PvP in the DZ as much as I love the PvE. You guys know I'm a huge advocate for going rogue. I find my reasons to go rogue, and I've had some really great firefights and stories to tell because of that. Before 1.02, honestly, I was lucky in a week's worth of play sessions to see one rogue squad. Now it seems that in each and every session that I've participated in throughout the week, I've seen at least 1 or 2 rogue squads in each of the DZs that I've entered. And that's awesome. That's how it should be, right? You know, there should be that squad or multiple squads roaming the Ds that everybody's kind of on the lookout for. You know, where everybody's real suspicious of. Man, I see him up north. What are they doing up there? Do we want to go hunt him down? Maybe we should just avoid him. Are they going to come to ambush our extraction point? There should be that fear, but it should never become a situation where it is Battle Royale and everyone is just trigger happy, everyone is pointing guns at one another, because it's the positive interactions as well as the negative interactions that continue to make the Darkzone special. All in all, I like where they've gone with it. I think they've hit a very nice sweet spot, and it's going to be interesting to see how the community reacts to these changes as time goes on in the Darkzone. So far, guys, right? All positives. Win-win. The DZ is becoming a better place. But I still hold the opinion that there is one last thing that drives me absolutely crazy about it. It's nice to see the increased drop rate for high-end items from higher level named bosses. But the bigger problem is when you go to the level 31 and level 32 zone in the DZ, you're really not gaining that much more experience. And considering there's a big push for people at that level to hit level 50 in the DZ, it would be nice to see the experience rewards from killing those higher level enemies increased so we could more rapidly push our way to 50. There's no real reason there for the developer to make that a time sink, to make us unnecessarily grind towards DZ rank 50 to get those blueprints, because we're already getting item level 31 blueprints anyways from vendors in, you know, inside of the base of operations as well as from drops. So to make that like an additional stepping stone that is just out of reach for a lot of players for a long amount of time doesn't make sense. Not to mention, if I'm going into a level 32 zone in the DZ, I should be earning substantially more experience than I would if I killed an enemy in the level 30 zone. It can't just be a little bit more experience because the difficulty is increased exponentially, therefore the rewards should be increased exponentially. This is something I really hope they take a look at and they consider moving into the future. I spend a decent amount of time playing the Division each and every week, probably 2 to 3 hours every single night, maybe a little bit less so on the weekends, maybe a little bit more. And I'm still nowhere near 50, and I spend a lot of time in the DZ. It's a really dragged out leveling process, and the rate at which players level to 50 definitely needs to be increased. So there you go, guys. My thoughts on the DZ as it currently stands. I think it is in a really good place. I really do. There's no doubt it has room for improvements, but they're moving forward. It's becoming a better experience, and as long as they continue to make changes like this that improve the experience without ever overstepping the bounds on what's going on with the rogue system, it's a great system. I think it's done really well. It makes the Darkzone really special. Let's keep it that way. If you guys have any questions or thoughts regarding patch 1.02 and how it's influenced and affected the Darkzone, let me know down in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next one.